Hello, YouTube viewers. I'm Ryan, a fellow gamer, and the host of the show, Talk. And on today's show, I wanted to have a discussion about Gears of War 3, and various issues that some of you Gears fans may be able to relate to. But, before we get into that, let me introduce my guest who is a passionate gamer, and obviously a Gears fan, Jonathan. So, Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good, Ryan. And yourself?
I'm fine, thanks for asking. Now to dive right into it. I know that Gears of War 3 has only been out for a little over 2 months, but what do you currently think about it so far?
I think Gears of War 3 is a pretty good game, and is definitely one of the most anticipated games to have came out this year. Gears of War 3 also offers graphics that are significantly brighter, colorful, and more detailed-oriented than on previous Gears of War games.
I agree. So what do you think of the gameplay?
I think the gameplay is a lot smoother and more refined, especially compared to Gears of War 2.
Yes, the gameplay definitely has improved immensely. So, aside from that, what do you think of the campaign?
The campaign was really good, and I really enjoyed the story mode, especially with the added optional 4-player co-op. When I first started the campaign, I was playing with my clan members. Shout out to the Hammer clan and others affiliated with us. And we completed about almost half the game, but a few of my clan members stopped playing when Skyrim came out. So I recently decided to complete the rest of the campaign by myself. Not only that, but my clan leader seems to spend the majority of his time watching Stargate through Netflix, and between me and you, I think he dedicated his life to it. And I don't think we'll play Gears together again until sometime next year. But what can you do? I guess it's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Oh, I see. And playing the campaign was enjoyable for me as well. But personally, the main thing I didn't like about the campaign was that Dom died. I mean seriously, of all fucking people they could have killed, why Dom? I mean I didn't want to see Carmine die either, but I would have preferred him to die over Dom. What was epic thinking? But, on the bright side, at least his death was heroic, and his sacrifice was not in vain. But aside from that, what do you think of the online multiplayer?
I totally agree. Dominic dying was some bullshit. When I got to that scene, and when it showed the part where he drove a truck into what I believe was some kind of propane tank, I was speechless. I was not expecting him of all people to have died. But, as you mentioned yourself, at least his sacrifice wasn't for nothing, and to answer your question about multiplayer, I think multiplayer is better than ever, well for the most part at least.
So, what do you like and dislike about it? And in your opinion, what exactly are the good and bad things about multiplayer?
Well, first of all, I like the fact that Gears of War 3 has dedicated servers, therefore eliminating the host advantage that we're all familiar with on previous Gears of War games. With that being said, it makes the game more balanced and obviously more enjoyable, considering that one person does not have unfair ridiculous host abilities. I also like the new techniques that you can use, such as the ability to spot and mark opponents, mantle kick them, and weapon swap with fellow teammates, as well as several other useful techniques. And as far as what I dislike about the multiplayer experience, one thing comes to mind. The noobs. I know they're a part of the online multiplayer community, unfortunately, but they are still the most insignificant part of any multiplayer gaming experience, especially in Gears of War 3. And, in Gears 3, as you may already be aware, there are many different noobs. You got your power weapon noobs, that usually haul ass to the power weapons as soon as the match begins, and if they manage to acquire them, they spend practically the entire match abusing them because they can't get kills any other way.
Right. I see where you're coming from, but some people would argue that that's what the power weapons are used for, and that that's why they're part of the game. So, what is your response to those who may have that opinion?
Don't get me wrong, I know that some people will argue, saying that that's what the power weapons are for, and that it's mandatory to rush them to acquire them, to hopefully tip the match in your favor, and not to sound contradicting, but I actually agree with this opinion for the most part, and to be honest, I use power weapons myself obviously, but I can honestly say that they are not my priority, and even when I do manage to get them, I don't abuse them. I'm actually not even that good at using them, and I mainly attempt to acquire them to prevent the noobs from using and abusing them. Which leads me to my next point. I feel that if you spend practically the entire match camping them, and if the majority of your kills consist of nothing but power weapon kills, you are a noob in my opinion.
Yes, I agree with you 100%, and I am all too familiar with those types of noobs. I mean, it's all part of the game, but it never fails to upset me when having to put up with that kind of bullshit. So what other kind of noobs are there in your opinion?
Well, we can't forget about the noobs that abuse certain starter weapons, starting with the famous chainsaw noobs. They usually run around pressing and holding the B button as if it's the only button on their controller that works. I mean seriously, are they that desperate for kills that they have to rely on such a pathetic maneuver? Moving on, right next to them, we got our retro-charging noobs, which pretty much wait for moments when you're distracted, and usually charge rush you from behind. And I suppose this could be argued to be strategical, and to some extent I suppose it is, but I still think that it is a cheap tactic, used to get a cheap and easy kill, and once again makes you a noob for abusing it. And sometimes because of this, I send messages to people who abuse the retro charge, and tell them to shove it up their ass. And last but not least, we got our ever so hated sawed-off noobs, but before I get into discussing them, I just want to say that I never thought there could be a bigger cheap kill noob than the chainsaw noobs, but I think we can all agree that the sawed-off noobs definitely take the place of the bigger noobs in this particular category. Now to continue on what I was going to say earlier, I feel that the sawed-off shotgun is a noob weapon that requires no skill. It's a one-shot cannon that allows noobs to camp in their hiding spots and try to ambush you like little bitches. I myself use the sawed-off occasionally, but I can honestly say that I don't abuse it unless the opposing team is doing so, and even then, I usually use the Nasher, and body the majority of them.
We share the exact same feelings about weapon noobs, especially starter weapon noobs that abuse the sawed-off. I mean, the sawed-off is so overpowered, it's ridiculous. I personally think that adding the sawed-off was yet another one of Epic's hasty decisions, but I guess we gotta take the bad with the good despite how horrendous it is.
Yes, I suppose so, but, in my opinion, Epic only added the sawed-off because of the noobs that were complaining about not being able to get any kills. But I feel that if they can't get any kills, they should just go play Call of Duty or something. It infuriates me just thinking about it.
That's understandable, but what can we do? Noobs will be noobs. The only thing that makes me feel better about the whole situation is reminding myself that they have no skill, and if it wasn't for the weapons or tactics they use, they wouldn't be shit, and deep down inside, I like to believe that they know that. But we appear to be out of time right now. So, I want to first thank you, Jonathan, for coming on the show and sharing your opinion about Gears of War 3. And I hope to have you as a guest again on a future show, so that we can continue to discuss this and other topics.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. It's been my pleasure, and I hope to be on a future show as well.
No problem, Jonathan. And for the YouTube viewers, especially you Gears fans, thank you for watching, and please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe to MMZ4. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.